Good to see you, Ricky.
Great to see you as well, Rachel.
Yeah, I thought we could start at the beginning for everyone and talk a little bit about um, the moment that Vistaprint decided to pivot. I know you guys pivoted really early on. We were talking towards the end of March. What was that moment that inspired everyone at Vistaprint to think masks?
It's an interesting one because obviously Vistaprint is part of Simpress, where we have companies around the world, and you began to see the impact that happened around the world. And as COVID began to ebb, flow, re-ebb again, uh, you began to see what it took for small businesses to reopen and for what it took for consumers, for people to feel safe back out in the world. And we began to see mask opportunities emerging in China. We began to see mask opportunities emerging in Italy, but really we began to see them becoming part of an everyday aspect of life. And with our supply chain around mask customization around the world, we realized on the heels of us realizing we can make shields for hospitals, we realized there's an opportunity we can do other things to help in this time, and that masks was one of those opportunities. And it happened pretty fast, and we realized within a couple of days, like, this opportunity, A, it fits into what we do as a company. B, it will be the type of thing that's necessary for small businesses long term to succeed. And what's interesting is, like, you just see the temperature of the conversation throughout the country on masks evolve week over week. And that's happened around the world. Like, you'll have a Boris Johnson be like, hey, everyone, just go buy a mask. Like, to where it's like, no one's going to wear a mask. And then eventually one day you're like, wow, everyone in the Senate's wearing a mask. And it became one of those things where we early on realized getting access to good, high quality masks that people want to have be part of their life was one of the best things we could do to help small businesses succeed, because you just don't want to be in a situation where someone opens a store and is nervous every time the door opens and the customer is going to come in and they're going to have a super awkward confrontation with them over, please put a mask on.
Yeah.
And I think that's where we began the process. And from idea to talking to you all was probably 6 days. So there was no time to waste because we knew the opportunity was there to help people.
Yeah. Tell us about those 6 days, that really short period of time where you turned around an entire manufacturing operation and supply chain and started to think about how we're going to launch a new e-commerce experience.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of it was trying to figure out, how do you create a turnkey solution that doesn't disrupt too badly other major projects going on at once? So for instance, like, we have major work going on of migrating our tech platform throughout Europe and eventually in the US. Like, you don't want to lose too much momentum on that for something that has lots of opportunity, but probably is only a year window where, knock on wood, where masks are so incredibly necessary. But based upon looking at the work we've been doing, it's interesting. I was in a role before where at Nike, I was vice president of experience innovation, and we would work on things so that when the CEO emailed us saying, what's our point of view on augmented reality, we'd get him an answer in an hour. We didn't come up with the answer in an hour. We'd been working on it for months and months and months, anticipating that. And I think a lot of the work we did earlier in the year with people like yourself to figure out what our future could be, what could more streamlined experiences be, made it where it was very easy to see how the pieces could fit together. If we had not started paving the way with a new tech platform, if we had not started paving the way for a new overall customer experience, it'd have been way more difficult to believe that this could be imaginable. I mean, even things like, there's a software platform Simpress created that lets you route orders around the world pretty easily. Like, without that, it would not have been easy to move as fast. And so it takes a lot of homework in the background to move fast.
And When you guys are thinking about speed to market, how do you balance that sort of an inevitable balancing act of things being perfect or working perfectly or testing and learning and iterating, um,
I mean,
especially with something like masks?
yeah, I mean, hey, you could answer that just as well as me. At some point in time, like you could have all the data on Earth, but you're going to have to make a call one way or the other, and you're not going to have all the data because you have 12 hours to make the decision. And it's interesting, like our shipping time was longer when we launched. And is that the reason that a conversion rate might be like this? Or is it because of a homepage flow? And at some point in time, you just also have to just make sure you keep coming back to human thinking of like, hey, I need a mask tomorrow to go to this thing. You can only get it to me in 2 weeks. Then you are not the answer for me. Hey, I need great masks for back to school. You get me in 2 weeks. Great, you're the perfect answer for me. And beginning to understand what you can, what can be successful and what might be impediments, and not try to over stress on the things that you are out of your control. But I think again, also just a tremendous amount of flexibility. I mean, I think with you all, it's been awesome in that like I'm sure you've shown lots of work during this process that you probably wish you had another day to work on, but not because it was good or not because it was great or awful, but because the paint is still wet on it when you're like, check it out. Here it is in Figma as of 16 seconds ago. And I think a comfort level that you're not going to get judged every single day, but rather judged over like, are we able to move the ball down the field consistently week over week on these things? I mean, you'll get judged on like, hey, is that a good design or not? But like the odds of perfection are zero.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's not like, that's across the entire stack of things. It's not just related to like the design. It's like what's the packaging for shipping? Well, there's what we can do day 1 versus what you can do day 30. Just because day 1 isn't your A+ doesn't mean you don't do it. And I think that's one of the big things. I mean, for us, we just kept reminding ourselves, like, if we could get masks onto people's faces, then small businesses have a chance to succeed. And no matter what obstacles came up, just keep coming back to that and know that like there's a window where you can make an impact. And being like, oh, that's going to launch in November is not helpful to someone trying to reopen their business now.
Yeah. I think something that helped us work so quickly was partnering directly with leadership at Vistaprint, with you, with Robert Keane, the CEO, with the head of CX, talking directly to country heads and being able to have those really real conversations, showing work in progress and kind of just talking about how we're going to get something live. Um, from your perspective, how do you all build consensus and how are you able to be so hands-on and so decisive?
Um, I would say that's probably not a 365 way you can operate. But for this, it was very easy to say, if we want to flatten information and again, be comfortable that you can have debate with the CEO or a country head can have debate with myself over something. Like if you have a culture of fear of disagreement, then it's probably really tough to operate that way. For us, it was really easy to be like, all right, we're all going to get on the Zoom and we're going to go figure this out. And then when we thought we had it figured out and something else happened, we'll figure it out again. And I think just trying to continually simplify down. And I think one big thing to remember as well with a lot of these things is like the only people that know what you didn't get done is yourself. Like as long as you're delivering great value to a customer, like if it's not great value, that sucks. But if it's not great value, or say, if it's not great value, it's awful. But if it's great value and it's just missing 2 things that you really wish were in there, but the customer never knows, like keep on moving. And I think that's one of the things that has been important to move fast is don't end up married to things that maybe don't matter as much as you think they did. And again, that when you think about the tree rings of a project, like make amazing masks and sell them to a customer as quickly as get to arrive as quick as you can. Everything else, like if you can't do that, then everything else doesn't matter. And anything you do that gets in the way of that is kind of superfluous sometimes. And I think it's been a helpful piece on the things we thought might matter have mattered less. Things that like, yeah, again, it's just been an interesting journey of where it's even when you go into, we did large scale research on like what people are looking for in a mask, and that all changed within 3 weeks. Like, are you skeptical of masks? I don't think I'm gonna wear a mask. They're like, yep, everyone thinks they're gonna wear a mask. Like legally, and so it becomes one of those things where it's like, you don't need to convince people to buy. You need to convince people why your mask is the best mask, is adjustable ear loops because of the articulated chin, because of the nose bridge, custom nose bridge. Those are the things you need to convince people of. We don't need to convince people of the benefit of a mask anymore. And I think if you had asked us 7 weeks ago, we'd probably have to convince people of a mask. And even if you look at things like the "This is not a mask" ad we put together, like I love that ad because masks had become a political statement at that point. And I think they still are a political statement, but sitting here today in the US, they're way less of a political statement today than they were a week ago. And which is just interesting to see, like, it's quite an adventure we're on, is the best way to put it.
Yeah, I think we sort of make a joke on the agency side sometimes that, we're not saving lives, but I think in the case of masks, like this is a real life, situation that we're all living through. And I'm wondering if that has changed how Vistaprint thinks about your purpose or your mission, how that's evolved through the mask.
To some extent, yeah, but I think it also just helps reinforce for us that to a large extent, our role with a small business is awareness and advocacy, in trying to push on things that they might alone not be able to push on. If I'll pick a random small business down the street from me, if Ideal Pizza posts on their Instagram account, not allowed in without masks, like that matters to their customers, but that's not going to create a groundswell of understanding. For us to be able to go and be the voice representing small businesses' concerns and say, not only are you required to have a mask, you should feel like it's your responsibility as a citizen in your community to wear the mask because you care about your neighbors and the businesses. And I think making sure that we reinforce and understand that, like, we are not just a vendor to small businesses. We have to be a partner to small businesses that's helping push forward the relationships, that's helping us push forward their relationship and place in the world. When you think of what COVID happened, we could have easily sat back and been like, hey, our role is to be a printer for people, but really our role was to help small businesses figure out how to survive and share information in real time as much as we could. And I think that carries forward in pretty major ways. I think we've had such an amazing opportunity to work with so many small businesses over the years, and just millions and millions and millions around the world each year. And I think we, at our best, we should feel like they're like third employee. And I think masks is one of those things where we had a chance to go and try to make the world understand that this is really, really, really important for your community. And one of the key things that defines your community is small businesses. So in that regard, I think it has forever altered us, but it was already things we were already pushing on and realizing. I think the pandemic, just another thing the pandemic accelerated is understanding, like, you have to be a partner to people. Otherwise, what are you doing this for?
Yeah. Yeah. When it comes to the wider digital offering, how do you see that evolving in this sort of COVID era or
Yeah,
post-COVID?
it's an interesting time, as a lot has happened in the last 4 months from a digital space. I mean, we're doing this via Zoom.
Yeah.
Like, if I had asked if I had asked most small to mid-sized business owners about Zoom, maybe they would have heard of it, but they're like, you'd be hard pressed to find a company that has probably seen more awareness rise than what Zoom has had in the last 4 months. And I think that begins, like, if you're a yoga instructor, we have a friend who's a personal trainer at a gym who she's like, I don't know if I'm going to go back to personal training at a gym. Like, I have a really nice thing going with my clients right now via Zoom. And I think beginning to make sure that we understand that small businesses needs were going to evolve. And in some cases, it's needing a website. In some cases, it's trying to get a great digital presence. In some cases, it's beginning to understand and adapt in real time to what printed product means for them in an environment. I mean, but I think it is inarguable that digital is a very big part of every small business owner's life now. What it will be 6 months from now is probably different than what it is today. I think we just have to assume that, like, there is no going back. I think, but I don't know what the stack is today. Like, you think about it, it's like, how many small businesses just had a Facebook page when, or an Instagram account when the pandemic occurred and had to figure out what their presence was. And so I think those are all things we're working on every single day. And I would say we view digital as big of an opportunity to help as print is for small businesses.
Yeah. When it comes to that stack, do you see Vistaprint when everyone is collaborating internally, trying to launch newer, better digital experiences? What's the stack that you guys are gonna continue to rely on? Is it tools like Slack and Figma and Zoom?
Um, I would really, really, really love a great whiteboard solution. I was trying a
Yeah.
few of them last week. Whimsical is intriguing. Again, there's pros and cons of all those things. Like, it's funny. Sometimes I equate Slack to someone coming up and banging on the window of your office randomly with a question really loudly over and over and over. Um, and whereas, like, Figma from a real-time collaboration standpoint is great when you're into session. When not in session mode, with someone as like your spiritual lead, like taking you through that flow, I don't know if it's the best experience to review design. But I think all those tools are here to stay in some form or another. The idea of getting in a car and driving an hour to go sit in a room to have what had been a Zoom for the last 6 months feels like a weird thing. So I think as a company, we're going to evolve in major ways. But of course, every digital collaboration tool is here to stay. Are these the winners? I don't know. I think winners will evolve. Like, I'm guessing there's lots of amazing product people sitting at home today going, I cannot do another Zoom because there has to be a better solution than this. And in 2 years, I can't wait to see what those better solutions are. And that's not me saying I'm not a fan of Zoom. Maybe they're not the best. It's that I feel like just a lot of ways of working got accelerated 2 to 3 years overnight. And like, I could look back at like the classic like wireframe PDF of before and contrasting with like the review on Figma, and it's a much more enjoyable experience. But is that the best experience possible yet? TBD. But I don't know. I'm curious for you all. Like, what are the things that you all are just outright committed to as a core foundation of how you all work, versus where do you want to see things evolve even more?
Yeah, I think what's really interesting, I was thinking about the masks experience and how quickly we were able to spin it up together. And I do think that if we had to be in a room together so closely for that period of time, I actually think we would have moved slower. I think the ability to hop on a Zoom, to talk, and just to like be real, like we were all
Yep.
talking as the world was falling apart, right? And I think
Yep.
we were able to arrive at really good solutions and talk through tough things a lot quicker. I think for us as a design and development company, I think we struggle in the same way. Like there is no perfect tool. It's hard to explain something digitally when it's a flat comp, or
Yep.
unless it's built and you can tap around. So I think we're always experimenting with different tools to try to tell that story, whether it's Envision or Principal or Framer, or just our developers whipping something up, or other types of prototyping tools. So I think there's still a lot of power in prototyping. But I think it will be really interesting to see. I think what I'm very curious about is when we do return to a world where not everyone is on Zoom, when we can be in person again, will the work be more innovative? Will we arrive at bigger, better solutions? Is there some sort of combination that happens where, you can kind of amp up your productivity by meeting in person, but still kind of work a little bit remotely? I
Yeah.
think that'll be
It'll be
really
interesting, like it better be worth it to get together.
right. Yeah, totally. Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
I'm getting on this airplane to fly to New York to meet with you all, to be like,
Yeah,
we could have done this via Zoom.
yeah, yeah.
But if it's in New York, I'd love it. I'd fly there tomorrow if I could. But
I know we have about 5 minutes left, but I'm wondering, as you're kind of thinking about everyone in the audience and any sort of tips or best practices that you would want to leave for folks, like what are those when we're launching the future of retail, these really innovative experiences, what are the tips or best practices that you would offer to help brand
um,
these live?
what's interesting, I kind of look back at uh my time at Nike, I was so focused on innovation. Like, I think the word fail gets used quite often, but like the ability, really trying to understand the language you're using. Like, is this a prototype or is this a pilot? Like, in my mind, a prototype, like I could show a prototype in a conference room and someone's like, oh, that's amazing. You can take that prototype and put it in one store, but if the technology is not ready to go scale to 100 stores, it's not really a pilot. Like, a pilot, you should be able to go and order more of it and have it like go into production. And I think sometimes, like, the getting people to understand, like, what is this test actually learning for us, just an expectation setting, and realizing that like sometimes the things you think are hard are easy, and the things that you think will be easy are actually going to be hard, um, is just an important thing to remember. And that there's also a really good chance that you're just too early. And I think that's one of those things where I was using like, there's some products just over the years. Like, in 2012, we put out smart shoes, and it was too early by 6 years minimum. And like the engineering was a marvel, but people just weren't ready for it, and that's okay. Like, did it mean that the thing was a failure? I mean, in the short term, sure, but in the long term, the learnings that were taken from it completely and totally evolved multiple years of a roadmap. Now, easy to say when you're a multi-billion-dollar company, you could afford some failure, but I think trying to figure out, like, if you are a smaller company and you like understand what your exit ramps are on things you're testing, like, how do you make sure you don't end up in a place where you are married to something that you don't know if it's actually going to work or not, but instead test and be like, hey, it's a test for holiday, it's going to work like this, and if it doesn't work, we're going to exit it and we're going to be okay, and we'll get the learnings from it. And I think it's just something that I would say in this time, like who knows what the future of physical retail is, and hybrid digital and physical together, but you're gonna have to crack a lot of eggs on the way to figure it out. So making sure that you understand the language of what you're trying and how to smoothly exit those things if they're sick, how to exit if they're unsuccessful and expand if they are successful, and get the learnings either way is so critical.
Yeah, I think that's a really great tip. Like you just can't be too emotionally tied.
Yeah,
Um,
and also you just can't assume that everything's going to work. Like, there's
yeah,
nothing worse than like, we've launched a new member program, it did not work. Oh my god, we have to pull back our entire member program we launched 2 months ago. There was a company, I won't name names, that launched their subscription service and realized like 2 days in it was incredibly confusing for every customer. what the name of the program was. And you're like, that seemed like something that could have got caught beforehand, but you want to make sure that, you just want to make sure you have natural exits when it makes sense.
Yeah. Well, thanks so much, Ricky.
Well, Rachel, awesome to talk to you as always.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm sure we'll talk.
Thanks for having us. Yeah, I'll talk to you in like an hour, I'm sure.
Yeah. Thanks, everybody.
Have a great one.